Bodyguard is a show that aired on the BBC at the start of September this year. The show follows the likes of the protection officer and former soldier David Budd, played by Game of Thrones Richard Madden, and his job to protect the Home Secretary Julia. Of course, it being a TV show, it has more to the eye than just that. It deals with a lot of issues going on in society today and real-life problems that not only Londoners face, but people living all around the world do. So, should you invest 6 hours worth of your time into the show? Let's find out. Before I go ahead, make sure you go over to my Twitter @BrainPilot_ and drop me a follow so you can decide what video I do next. So without further ado, I'm BrainPilot and here is The Bodyguard. Is it worth watching? The story. The story starts off when David Budd is on the train back from a weekend away with his kids. Let me tell you now, I don't think I've ever been more hooked to the screen and felt so tense when watching television when watching this episode. The first 20 minutes are definitely award-winning. He's suspected that there is a suicide bomber on the train, and just as he suspected, they are just a button press away from blowing the whole train up with all of the passengers on it, and we're left to watch it as it unfolds. I thought it was executed perfectly. All Nadia has to do is press a button to carry out what she is tasked to do, and the fact that something like that with a lot at stake was drawn out for most of the episode was incredible. You didn't know what was going to happen or even how to feel. Like I said, it's award-winning. Episode 2, you get the same sort of feeling as what you do in the first. The Home Secretary is being shot at, and there you are again. Not sure whether she is going to get shot, if David is going to get shot, or if they're going to get away, to the point where you feel as though you are in the car with them. From then on, I feel as though the show takes a dip in its quality and its power of suspense and making the audience feel uncomfortable. There is a love story that forms between David and Julia, which I rolled my eyes at massively. And Julia gets killed, which is a vital point to the story. However, from episode 2 until episode 6, which is the final episode, you don't get that feeling of suspense again. You're left to wonder who planted the bomb under the stage, but it's a question that I found myself not really caring that much about. There was a lot of pointing fingers at who it might be, but the people who were being accused weren't really in the show that much, so you didn't really care. When David was being accused, it was frustrating because you knew that he was in the right and taking everything into his own hands. However, when the suspense does come back in the final episode, it was familiar in a good sense, and it was a great extended length episode. My issue with the ending is that it was all happy families and they essentially drove off into the sunset. I feel as though the show would have been a lot more talked about if something had have happened right at the end. But don't get me wrong, everybody was talking about the show. Yes, we found out that Nadia wasn't the victim she was pretending to be and it was an inside job to kill Julia, but none of that had any weight to it or impact to it. It just felt extremely rushed to round it all up. I was very, very disappointed with that. The style. Some of the shots that were in the episode were beautiful to look at. Visually, it was one of the most impressive things that I've seen on the BBC. Statistics show it. It pulled in the most views since 2008. That's 10 years. BBC haven't been able to create a drama that has competed for that long. Even Sherlock and Doctor Who haven't been able to pull in the figures that this show did. Apparently the writer is going to create 3 more seasons of the show, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it needs any more. The story was wrapped up. Yes, we can see more people that David can protect, but I just don't see it being as gripping as this was. It will be predictable. Out of 6 episodes, 3 of them were great, 1 of them was really good, and 2 of them were just okay. So I don't know what more they can do with this character. I'm a firm believer of make the show for the audience, not for the network to make money, but that's what always seems to happen. Final thoughts. Overall, I would say that this show is definitely the best thing that has been on the BBC for a long time. In the UK, the best dramas all tend to air on the network ITV. However, with this show, the BBC have shown that they can compete. It had a great story with great acting. However, I just feel as though the story wasn't told in the best way possible in the middle of the season. That's where it let itself down. However, The Bodyguard is most definitely worth watching. Have you watched The Bodyguard? What did you think of the show? Should Richard Madden be the next James Bond? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.